What's going on YouTube? Hope you guys are doing well. The NBA draft is in about a week, and prior to the draft, I wanted to upload a video on my full draft prospect big board. It's going to be a ranking of my top 70 to 80 prospects based on my scouting over the last year, all based on how I project them to be in the NBA. And I don't work for a team or the league, and I'm not an official scout, but I treat my big board like I am a scout, and my job is on the line. So there are definitely guys that I will call my shot on and definitely be different to consensus. We'll start off at the top at number 1, where I have Paolo Banchero. He is the most complete NBA ready prospect of any of the top 3 guys, and really of anybody in the draft, and he's the guy I have the most confidence in. He's got point forward potential as an underrated playmaker, super polished scorer, strong and athletic enough, and there's really not any glaring weaknesses to his game, and he could very reasonably be a consistent all-star down the road. Number 2, we got Chet Holmgren, and he has the highest ceiling of anybody in the draft class, and I am a Chet truther, but him being at 2 is not really a knock on him, more than just Paolo praise and confidence. In the right patient developmental system, Chet can be a defensive player of the year, potential MVP candidate down the road, and things will just take time with Chet, but he's another guy that I'm very confident in will be very successful in the NBA right away. That leaves Jabari Smith at number 3, and out of the top 3 prospects, he's the guy I have the most fear on. He is a monster and a historically good shooting prospect at that size at 6'10", but he's also historically bad. He's one of the worst top 10 prospects in 2-point shooting in years. He'll definitely need to polish attacking the rim and consistent mechanics, but he's a gifted shooter and athlete at a really good size and frame, and he needs to be in my top 3. I have Jaden Ivey in a tier of his own. I think he is behind the top 3, but really no one else behind him is even that close. He definitely has that Donovan Mitchell, Ja Morant potential to be a star freak athletic guard. His physical ability gives him an insane potential and a really high floor, but he proved at Purdue that his 3-point shot is there and developing. With improved decision making and play in the lane, he'll definitely be a star. This is definitely where I start to get a little different. Dyson Daniels at number 5 is going to be a two-way star. I rank him higher than probably anybody else you will find because he's a 6'8" lead guard who runs point. He's pass first, a really good playmaker, and he's also the best perimeter defender in the entire draft class. Playing for Team Ignite in the G League definitely made him ready because he's playing against NBA level athletes in competition, and a guy who has physicality as a big part of his game. I think it's really important. Number 6, I got Keegan Murray, and he will be so easy to slot into any team in the NBA because he's lengthy with underrated athleticism. He is a 3-level scorer, can space out the floor really well at the 4. He even played small ball 5 at Iowa, so his physicality and rebounding are definitely there. I don't know if he'll be an all-star per se or a consistent one down the road, but I can very well see him averaging 15 plus in a few years at age 23 or 24 and be a good number 2 or 3 option. Bennedict Mathurin, number 7, aka Baby Andrew Wiggins. Mathurin can be a star. He is an explosive athlete, expanding 3-point shot at an underratedly large size of 6'7" with a 6'9" wingspan. The key for Mathurin will be improved shot creation and keeping efficiency up in the league. He scored on high volume at Arizona and a lot of usage, but he should have a role carved out for him day 1. Number 8, I got Jalen Duren. I think his floor is higher than people think, and I almost ranked him at 6 or 7 on my board. He's one of the youngest prospects in the class. He's going to be a force and be fine rebounding and defending right away. It's the modern touch that will unleash his game, very much like it's done a little bit for DeAndre and adding the mid-range, but Duren has already added that, and at age 18, he could definitely be a top big man in the NBA down the road. Sochan is my favorite prospect in the entire draft class. He is a Swiss Army knife on both ends. He does everything to impact winning, and he knows that. He plays with an elite mentality and energy that raises the level on every single team needs a guy like that. I love his diverse background. He's been to Germany, England, Poland, the United States, and during the COVID years, he's been through a lot, and I think that adversity really treats him well because he has a very humble mindset, and I have a very, very high level of confidence in him having a very long, successful career. Might be a surprise here, but I have Ousmane Dieng at 10, and I think he truly has one of the highest ceilings in this draft class. I don't have much confidence he'll be a for sure star, but I know he can because he's uniquely smooth on the ball as a creator for himself and others at 6'10". He's definitely a little raw and maybe a little boomer bust compared to other prospects at the top, but the ceiling is immense, and Ousmane Dieng could very well be the future of the league. I am definitely lower on most than Shaedon Sharpe because of some questions, not necessarily that I think he's going to be a bad player. I have watched every ounce of him possible, and him being another raw wing athlete, kind of like Jalen Brown was, for example, needing the proper development is important, just like it was for JB, who ended up altering his shot in the league and changing his game a lot, but he ended up taking huge strides. So like I said, it's not so much I don't think he's going to be good. My confidence isn't fully there, and ranking 11 is still good. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick, and I think he's worth a top 10 pick. Number 12, I got Tari Eason, one of the best best defenders in the class, and scouts are actually having some game IQ concerns out of nowhere, to be honest, which I don't fully agree on. His defense and physicality give him a high enough floor to not be worried about a lot, and if he falls in the draft because of these random questions, a lot of teams will kick themselves in a few years, and I do think that there's a chance that this is a smokescreen report, and there are a couple teams that want him to fall to them. Johnny Davis at number 13, and we know what we get out of Johnny. He's super polished scorer, good rebounder and defender at the guard spot, but I don't think he ascends to the Devin Booker level that people really want him to as that pure scoring two guard. I think CJ McCollum level is definitely more attainable in what he'll end up being, and I think he is a high floor guy because of his polished scoring game, but I don't see a superstardom career, but I could always be wrong. The more I watch Jalen Williams, the more I love him, and I have him at 14. I watched him all season at Santa Clara in the WCC, and for some reason, when I was rewatching all of his tape after the season is where I was shown the light. I had him ranked kind of high in the early 30s, but he really can do everything, and if anyone is going to be a superstar steal from the outside the lottery, it will be Jalen, and that's why you have to rank him so high. AJ Griffin at 15 is definitely one that I am lower on than most, maybe the biggest one. He is a lethal three-point shooter at an insanely young age, but I rank him much lower than most because on the ball, movement-wise, defensively, and in agility and explosiveness, I have major concerns. I add on the injury history, but every prospect has cons, but I see these severely limiting his career, and AJ's off-ball scoring will be good right away, yes, but I don't see a star, and that's why I rank him at 14, and I think he's still worth that lottery pick, but I don't know if I would use a top 10 pick on him. Right after at 16 is Ochai Agbaji, who honestly is very similar to AJ, but he's older with experience and has that polish. He's similar because he's an off-ball, high-efficiency scorer and an elite shooter, especially in the catch and shoot, with a high floor, lower ceiling, but he is also a very good athlete and defender that AJ is not. Ochai is definitely a better player than AJ right now is for sure, probably by a long shot, but I give the benefit of age and upside to AJ, who has a 4-year difference. Jaden Hardy has been overlooked for sure because of some bad shooting splits for Team Ignite last year in the G League, but we saw the same thing happen with a guy like Jalen Green on a different level, to be fair. G League Ignite is preparing him for the NBA, and Hardy's splits don't really concern me. Going from high school to NBA is a very, very big transition in level of game. And I think he'll be a dangerous scorer in the league, and he's definitely worth a late lottery pick if a team wants to reach him on there, but he very well could fall into the 20s and close to 30, and I think that'd be a steal. Number 18 on my board is Malaki Branham, probably the most efficient guard or wing prospect in the class, all at a young freshman age from Ohio State. His defense is pretty glaringly not great, but that can definitely come with time, and he's very Chris Middleton-esque on offense, and he's been in lottery talks, and at his size, he's more dynamic than some of the other young scorers in the class, so I understand using a lottery pick on him, and I think there is room for development for him to become a young star. Up next at 19, I have Dalen Terry, and straight up, Dalen Terry is a dog. He has said it himself. He has a one-of-one kind of energy that he brings into a building. I cop him the Herb Jones. He has the same length and size. He's an impeccable defender, but on offense, he's basically a point guard, and I think in the league will be a really good secondary playmaker in the NBA next to a real point guard. As long as his solid shooting holds up, especially in the catch and shoot, he will be a great young impact player and should be in mid-first talks when he's really not getting enough love, and he's probably going in the 20s or 30s. If he goes anywhere past 20 to 25, team is going to be absolutely wrecked. They didn't take him earlier. Rounding at the top 20, I have Tyty Washington. I feel like he is the forgotten prospect. He's a very safe guard prospect and will be good. I think he can be the Tyrese Maxey of this year. Very similar play style to Maxey, and like Tyrese coming out of school, the shooting and some stats and efficiency and analytics weren't really that great, but he's a great pick and roll guard with an elite floater and midi. He's a good passer, and he really shouldn't go outside the top 20 to 25 max. Bryce McGowens is arguably a top 5 offensive player in the entire draft with definitely a high ceiling. And I honestly don't really care for the bad efficiency that people kind of knock on him, as he played for one of the worst power teams you will find in the entire country in college basketball in Nebraska. Most rank him in the 30s, but he's a crafty 3-level scorer, slithery finisher, long and athletic at 6'7". He's young. There's no reason why he should go in the second round. I think that's absolutely madness, and teams are going to be pissed when he's scoring 20 points a game in 4 or 5 years. Another guy I rank higher than most people is Christian Braun. I think he's definitely worth a first rounder because he will be doing exactly what he did at Kansas in the NBA. He is a high impact, high efficiency, lower stat production player. He can shoot, defend, pass, cut. He's a good athlete. He might only average 10, 3, and 3 say down the road, but he's going to do that on a championship team, and he's going to be one of those guys that's an X factor in a playoff series. At 23, we got Kennedy Chandler, and he's been overlooked because of his size, but this happens every year. We got guys like Trey, Fred VanVleet, Jalen Brunson, and I don't think Kennedy Chandler's any different. He's a great passer. He has wildly good 3-point range range. He's a good defender at his size and a good attack in the basket at a small size. I think he can definitely be a lead guard down the road on a really good team and potentially another small star guard that teams are upset that he was in plain view in the draft and they overlooked him because of his size. MarJon Beauchamp is probably the best cutter in the class, and I think because of that, he's a really good complementary piece on offense, and he's a really good lead guy on defense potentially. 6'7" with the 7-foot wingspan, great awareness and motor. He can definitely be a number 1 defensive option and probably number 2 defensive option right away on a team while still offering enough on the offensive end. It's easy to see him impacting a team right away. Rounding out the top 25, we got Blake Wesley. He's definitely one of the raw prospects that will likely go in the first round. He's got a long body with good balance and speed and athleticism. He's dangerous in the open floor, and a lot like Jaden Ivey, I see a lot of his natural ability creating a high ceiling, but he's definitely got a lot of work to do to get there with a lower floor. 3-point shooting, turnovers, driving through contact are definitely some of the concerns, but in the right place and development system, he'll definitely shine. I just don't want another Cam Reddish scenario where we get a guy who we can see the tools succeeding and he doesn't get the PT right away and proper consistency to really succeed. Then we get into the next tier of guys, and I think the biggest guys out of here are a lot of those high impact wings. I mentioned Dalen Terry and Christian Braun earlier, but guys like Josh Minot and Wendell Moore, I think, are going to be underrated guys, and I definitely have them higher than most. I also see a lot of guys in this tier that are the older, experienced college players. I think they have a really high floor, but the ceiling is definitely lower because of their age and physical abilities. I look at guys like Andrew Nembhard, for example, who I have at 32, which is probably higher than most because I think he's going to be good in the league for sure, but how good can he actually get over time? I see maybe a very Malcolm Brogdon-esque career at his ceiling. And then I look at other guys like Alondes Williams, EJ Liddell, Walker Kessler, who could definitely be really good impact players, but how good will they be in 8 or 9 years? And you also have some of the younger guys, most towards the bottom with the high ceilings. I'm just not confident enough to take them maybe in the end of the first round, like Max Christie, Peyton Watson, Pat Baldwin Jr., where we saw those guys have a lot of flaws throughout the season, and yes, they're young and they could take a lot of time and they have the physical profiles and maybe some of the tools, but I have a lot of questions and I'd rather take some of the sure things early second or late first round. Then we have the last tier here that I'm going to go through, and I think it's similar to the tier before, just to a lesser ceiling. A lot of the experienced college players on here, like maybe David Roddy, Christian Coloco, Jalen Williams, Orlando Robinson, I think they can be good and have served good roles in the NBA for years to come, but I don't have as much confidence as I have in some of the other experienced guys, like I mentioned, Andrew Nembhard and Wendell Moore. Then similar to the tier before, again, there are the guys that have the higher upside, like Caleb Houston, Yannick Nzosa, Carlo Makovic is on here, Moussa Diabate, where I think these guys either are going to take a long time to develop and have to do a really good job of that to get them to where they need to be, or I saw a wide range in quality throughout the year in their tape and film and gameplay, and I'm not super confident because I've seen some high highs and some really low lows, and I don't want to put my stamp of approval on them right away, kind of like with J.D. Davison, where I want to, but I don't know if I can do that. I'll also add that there are a lot of the older guys here that I think will be in the NBA, maybe on two-way deals for a long time, but definitely do serve roles, kind of like Colin Gillespie, James Akinjo, Lucas Williamson, Aminu Muhammad. I think these guys definitely have a professional career ahead of them in the United States. Whether that's going to be in the NBA every single year consistently, I'm not sure, but I do see a good future for them. To give you a full POV, here is the full board. It's 1 through 70 with, I think, 15 or 16 prospects after that, so it almost goes even to 90 prospects. And like I said, I am not a scout. Maybe one day, but I am not a scout for a team, but I am treating it like I am because I have done my film study on these guys hours and hours over the last year and change in college games, international games, doing everything I can to understand these prospects and try to project their careers in the NBA. But I, like many, will be wrong on a lot of guys for good and for bad reasons, and I hope nothing but the best for a lot of these guys, but this is where my board lies going into draft night. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section and questions, anything you might have. Appreciate y'all for watching and supporting. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. The draft is next week, but Summer League is coming up, college basketball season is coming up, the NBA season is wrapping up and then starting again in a few months. And don't forget to follow me all on socials on Twitter and TikTok. I'd love to connect you guys there. Hope you'll have a great week. Peace.